Hello, I'm Sam from Cultaholic.com and this is Graded for NXT and 205 Live, where I take a look at each show segment by segment and award each little bit a grade from A+ to F. My throat is still acting up. I don't know what's going on, so sorry about the ASMR voice, but yeah, let's crack on. Hit the intro. So we kick things off with 205 Live as we always do, and out come the Lucha house party, but there's no microphone, and there's no Callisto, and there's no "It's Lucha time" this week. Instead, they just get in the ring, and out come the Singh brothers, who have a microphone and are going to tell everybody what they think. The Singhs announce that they are back in town, and they state that they are the only undefeated team in 205 Live, and they are going to keep that streak going. Now, for a little bit of clarification, yes, the Singhs are undefeated in 205 Live, but they wrestled their first match in 205 Live on the first show of 205 Live, won that match, and then were immediately called up to the main roster, so it's not like they've been there defending that for quite some time. Lucha House Party make quick work of the Singhs, but they do get a little bit of offense in. The House Party are showcasing that they are a strong tag team, they are utilising regular tags and hitting some solid double team moves. That is until Sunil is able to drive Lince to the outside, and Samir can capitalise a little bit on that. The Singhs managed to isolate Lince quite well. They are tagging regularly, they're working good as a unit, they are using double team manoeuvres, and they keep cutting him off from Gran Metalik. He's not able to make the hot tag. A key example of this is there's a great tag block in which Lince manages to get free. He goes over to Metalik, but Sunil on the outside pulls Metalik's legs away, and Lince's hand comes down and just misses the tips of his fingers and hits the apron. Metalik eventually gets in, clears house in a very high-flying Lucha type of way, and this marks the beginning of the end for the Singh brothers. That's not to say that they look out of their depth in any way. They managed to hit Lince with this sick double super kick after a blind tag attempt, but ultimately Metalik hits a massive diving elbow and Lince hits a shooting star press, and they pick up the 3. I'm gonna have to give this one a C-, unfortunately. It just felt like a nothing sort of match. I like the idea that the Singhs could be these comical foils that think they're a lot better than they are and they keep getting beaten, but I would have liked, if they were gonna do that, I would have liked, for them to have some promos and some lead up time in the weeks before where it's really hyping this big return, and then they just get stopped dead and it becomes more of a funny thing over time. As I said, the Singhs still worked very, very well as a team, but it just felt a little bit off. We then go backstage and Drake Maverick is talking to Humberto Carrillo, and he's asking Humberto to just stay clear of Drew Gulak. He's a troublemaker and he's always got some sort of plan in his head and he's always got something up his sleeve. And then Jack Gallagher appears. Gallagher immediately puts everybody at ease. He says, "I'm not cleared to wrestle and I'm not going to fight you anyway. I just came to talk to Drake because we're going to be in London in 2 weeks and I'd like a match." And then before he leaves, he says to Humberto, "There's no ill will between us. I just think that there's some unfinished business between us as opponents." We then go back to the ring and Brian Kendrick is making his entrance and he's immediately jumped by Mike Kanellis. Kanellis is beating him down before Tozawa comes out, makes the save, takes him down to ringside, throws him into the barriers, and then everybody's down. Drake Maverick's down, referees pulling them all apart. Kanellis jumps over the barricade and Tozawa's pulled to the back, and it all ends sort of weird. Kanellis walks off and Tozawa's fuming. And then after some commercials, we go back to the ring for tonight's main event, which is Drew Gulak versus the Cruiserweight Champion, Tony Nese. Both men immediately square up, and Tony Nese shows his adaptability, his mat game against the much more, qualified mat technician Drew Gulak. That being said, they're fairly even in the get-go, and Gulak looks almost psychopathic in places. He seems to be enjoying messing with Nese. Nese ramps up the speed very quickly though, and all of a sudden we're on the outside with a massive dive that wipes out Gulak. And here Gulak has been put on the back foot. The faster pace doesn't suit him at all, but he's able to peel to the outside and he drives Nese into the barrier and then the apron, and he's able to regain control. Gulak manages to avoid an early running Nese attempt, with both men then moving out onto the apron. Nese then gets planted with a slam straight onto the apron and he's in agony, and then Gulak drags him back in the ring and continues grinding him down and working over the limbs. Nese does manage to get free lightning fast and he hits a top rope springboard Rana, but the only problem is he drives Gulak headfirst into the mat fine, but he drives his own knee in there too, and he's reeling in agony. He's really hurt himself. Eventually, when he's managed to stretch that knee out, I'm just going to refer to my notes here, he hits Gulak with a spinning heel kick, a running back elbow, he gets driven into the apron by Gulak before wiping him out, and he connects with a springboard moonsault. There's a really nice moment where Gulak appears to have the Gulak locked in, and Nese manages to drive himself up and over the ropes because they're so close to the ropes, and then he grabs Gulak from behind and both men go tumbling to the floor. Gulak manages to get himself into the ring by 5, but Nese isn't having it. He grabs him by the ankle, drags him back out, takes him round the bases. He drives him face first into the apron, the steps, the barricade, and then he hits a delayed vertical suplex onto the floor. Gulak is driven up to the top rope by Nese, but he manages to capitalize by grabbing him, putting him over his shoulders, and then jumping off and planting him stomach first, or I guess ribs first, onto his knees. After this, he almost picks up the 3, but Nese is stronger than that. Nese manages to hulk his way up, and then Gulak grabs him and just starts slapping him. Things then get super quick again. Nese manages to hulk his way up through the slaps. He goes for his 450, misses. Gulak gets the Gulak, and he manages to, through all of the agony, roll through into a pin attempt. And Nese once again attempts the run in Nese. He hits that German into the corner. He goes to the opposite side of the ring. He goes sprinting at him, but before you can even see anything, just during the camera cut, Gulak has come up and turned him inside out. There's then a pin attempt here, which is quite awkward because Nese kicks out of it, and the ref very audibly starts shouting, "Tony, Tony, sell! Tony, sell!" And then he goes over to Tony and he starts doing this to his eyes, and Tony looks up looking for a camera. It's, yeah. But they sort of go all the way back to it. Nese again hits the German into the corner, hits the running Nese, and picks up the 3. I should say as well, throughout this match, we've been cutting back to Arya Daivari, who's been watching on as he wants Tony Nese in a match of his own. But overall, I'm going to give this match an A-. It was just really nice to see that clash of styles and the adaptability of both stars. You can put Drew Gulak with anybody and he'll have a standout match, and Tony Nese is proving to be very much of the same quality. And in terms of an overall grade for 205 Live this week, I'm going to give it a C. I really wasn't into that opening match very much, and we had that weird segment between Kendrick, Tozawa and Kanellis. I get that it's ongoing, but I just don't understand why it had to take place at ringside. They've been doing it all backstage. I just don't know. The main event though was stellar, but in terms of why I gave it this grade, I just feel like not a lot got done this week. It just seemed to be one of those weeks where it's good wrestling, but not a lot of progression in terms of storyline. But that was 205 Live, and now we're going to move on to NXT. We're starting things off pretty strong this week with a follow-up from last week. It is Burch, Lorcan and Carrillo versus the Forgotten Sons. Obviously, Ryker went full ham last week and destroyed Carrillo in the crowd, and Burch and Lorcan came in to make the save. So this is sort of, I guess, the blow-off to that, or is it setting something up? Let's find out. Cutler and Lorcan start things off before Lorcan takes care of both Cutler and Blake, driving them to the outside, and then he hits a dive that wipes out all 3 Sons. So this one's a high-paced match. Carrillo then enters and starts taking it to Blake before he gets demolished by Jackson Ryker. Ryker then brutalizes Carrillo with Cutler and Blake coming in, and eventually I think it's Blake gets in and grinds Humberto into the mat, with the other Sons sort of jumping in and just having a little dig here and there. Burch then gets the hot tag, hits a missile dropkick, goes into a crossface, and then Ryker comes in, and then just everything falls apart a little bit for Danny Burch, unfortunately. Carrillo comes off the top rope, everything gets a little bit brawly, and then he goes for a dive to the outside. The Sons move out the way, and he connects and wipes out Lorcan, and he's like, "Oh no, what have I done?" But that leaves Danny Burch alone in the ring with all 3 members of the Forgotten Sons. Carrillo then tries to amend this, coming to try and make the save on Burch, but Ryker just picks him out of the air, plants him, and it all just turns into a beatdown. The Sons then hit this weird triple team stompy thing with Ryker holding both guys in like an upside down position, and then they just jumped on and sort of drove a knee into their guts, but they pick up the 3. I'm going to give this one a B+. The pace, the storytelling, the aggression, it really sold the idea of a blood feud, even though Burch and Lorcan and Carrillo as a team was just gently hashed together last week. It made a lot of sense. The Sons are looking absolutely unstoppable, and I cannot wait to see where they're going to take them. We then cut backstage, and Kathy Kelly is talking earlier in the day to Shayna Baszler as she's entering the building. She's like, "Do you have any remorse for what you did?" And Shayna's like, "No, I don't have any remorse for Io and Kairi, I don't care." And then Kathy says, "Did you only attack Io because she's pinned you and you've never pinned her?" And then Shayna sort of pauses, enraged, slaps the microphone out of Kathy's hand and walks off. We then keep it backstage, and we are at the Performance Center. It's a pre-record from earlier in the week, and people are training. Mia Yim's in the ring, and Bianca Belair is giving her a load of crap, and eventually they get in each other's faces while Robbie Brookside is trying to really funnily diffuse it with his lovely Scouse accent. But it's confirmed they're going to go one-on-one next week. We then go back to the ring for Mansoor versus Dominik Dijakovic, and here he comes, the modern day Draco, low-key best theme in WWE, Dijakovic straight into the ring, and things get off to a nice start. Mansoor actually manages to evade some of the more like big dumb power moves, and he's able to go up and over and get Dijakovic on the back foot, I guess, a little bit, but he tries to knife edge chop him, and Dijakovic's like, nope, and just grabs him by the throat, lifts him up, and marches him into the center of the ring. Mansoor, though, quite excitingly, manages to break free. He's evading a lot of stuff until he's caught in midair, and Dijakovic looks at him, looks to the crowd, and just tosses him. And he hits the crowd barrier before he hits the floor. It looked really nasty. Not one to be deterred though, once back in the ring and after a failed pin attempt by Dijakovic, Mansoor manages to get himself back, get himself up to speed, and he keeps evading a lot more of Dijakovic's offense. Eventually though, Dijakovic hits him with a fist in midair as he comes off the ropes, and then he hits the Feast Your Eyes and picks up the 3. I'm going to give this one a B-, and I know that while it was a little bit of a squash, it was really nice to see Mansoor get that much offense in. It seems like they genuinely believe in him. It was really, really cool. I should also say, before I forget, post-match, Velveteen Dream came out, and Dijakovic obviously recently made it very clear he's going after the North American title. Dream comes out again on a couch, and then stands up and sings a version of the Star Spangled Banner with lyrics that pertain to himself at Dijakovic. Dijakovic looks a bit like, what? But he looks a little bit angry about it. So it was funny, a little bit odd, but you know, he still looks a bit pissed off. But yeah, as I said, B-, he looks like an absolute monster. I can't wait to see what him and Dream are going to be able to put together. And I'm just looking forward to seeing where he's going to go in NXT. I hope he doesn't get called up too quickly because he's got that look, he's got the build, he's a really big guy. I think if you kept him in NXT, he could become the heel, the monster heel. I just think he is potentially the future of that entire sort of brand. We then cut backstage and the Undisputed Era are all talking about how Adam Cole is going to take it to Matt Riddle and prove that he's the better wrestler. And he's also going to prove that the Era are stronger now than they have ever been. However, Cole does say that Roddy dropped the ball last week, and Roddy takes umbrage with that. He's like, come on, you can't say that. Like, what did you say that for? And he walks off. And then Cole's like, oh God, he's so butthurt about it. And Kyle O'Reilly's like stood there going, what? And Bobby Fischer's like, no, like you're a dick. Like, don't say that. Like, the timing of this is stupid. Why would you even say it? So he goes off to try and talk Roddy down. And Kyle O'Reilly stood there with Cole just going like, man, you shouldn't have said that. You're an idiot. So the cracks are starting to form. And I think that Adam Cole is going to be ousted from the Era, but we're going to have to see what happens in coming weeks. And then we go back to the ring for tonight's main event, which is Kassius Ohno making his return to NXT US because he's been over in the UK doing his thing versus the debuting Kushida. He's finally here after Triple H being in love with him for all of these years. He's here, and what an entrance. He comes up, there's all the smoke, he sort of comes up through a trapdoor. It's great, it's so cool. And when they're both in the ring, Kushida starts proceedings by offering a handshake, and Ohno looks at it, and he goes to walk toward him, and he kicks the hand away. Ohno tries to plant him early, but Kushida just starts wrapping him in knots and showcasing that while yes, he is sort of a fast, high-paced guy, he also has a very vast knowledge of holds. He's got an MMA background, for God's sake, so you know, you need to get across that he can do all of this. Kushida then hits a standing moonsault and Ohno catches him into a headlock. Eventually both men break, and then Ohno looks at him and offers his hand, and Kushida's like, should I do it? And he's like looking at the crowd, hamming it up, and the crowd are like, no, don't do it. And he goes, they do shake hands, but then Ohno takes it to him. So Ohno drops him very quickly and starts stomping on him. Kushida already looks to be in quite some trouble, and this early in the match, his nose is already bust open. I've got my notes here. He knocks Ohno back with an enziguri over the top rope before hitting a springboard tomahawk and a drop kick to Ohno's arm. Kushida then attempts a roundhouse, but he gets caught and lifted into an electric chair position, and Ohno hits him with a sit-out facebuster. And I mean, of all the things you could hit on a guy whose nose has just popped open, when Kushida turns to the camera, it's just like at this point. Ohno then gets in his face and he just keeps shouting, you don't belong here, and Kushida manages to drive him face first into the second turnbuckle before going for a springboard Rana, and it was pretty awkward because it looked like Ohno caught him and didn't realise that's what they were going for because his legs were together, and Kushida had to sort of do it twice, and then when they both fell it was really slow, and but you know, you can forgive it. Both men then start trading blows and Kushida knocks him pretty hard and then in a really great moment grabs his hand and takes the handshake that he feels he was owed. He then goes for a handspring back elbow, but Ohno gets up in time and connects with an elbow of his own and he nearly picks up the pin over Kushida. He gets like 2.9 for a brilliant near fall. Ohno then looks to be setting up for his finish, but he gets met with the wind-up punch and then a penalty kick, and then Kushida locks in the hoverboard lock by rolling through, and he picks up the win. Now, I enjoyed this match, but I'm only gonna give it a B+, and I think part of it is just the fact that I know Ohno's job is to get new guys over. Commentary did that enough justice. They kept saying that, you know, he doesn't like William Regal's new toys, but something just felt a little bit off. It had moments of absolute greatness, the storytelling was really nice, and, you know, there were some stiff strikes, but there just didn't seem to be the chemistry there that I thought we were going to see between Ohno and Kushida. And in terms of an overall grade for NXT this week, I'm going to give it a B. I really liked the opening tag. I think that Lorcan isn't done with NXT yet. I think him and Burch are going to do some more stuff before Burch maybe has to go it alone or goes up to 205 Live, but we'll see. And it just showed that the tag division has heated up so significantly since we started doing this series. Like, nobody cared about the Forgotten Sons, and now, over a matter of not even months, like this is like weeks, they now look like the biggest, most unstoppable tag team that NXT has to offer. I'm very much looking forward to Dijakovic versus Dream, as I said, and my biggest worry and my biggest hope is that they can find a string of very good, very solid opponents for Kushida. I think you need to showcase how diverse his talents are, really. You need to show that he can go technical, he can go fast, he can go high flying, he can do all these things, and I think if you set him up with a nice little run of opponents and then bang him into a feud with one of them, that's the best way to move forward. But anyway, this has been graded. What did you think of this week's NXT and 205 Live? Let us know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow Cultaholic on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. If you like what we do here at Cultaholic, you can check us out on Patreon at patreon.com/Cultaholic. And no matter what you do, don't ever forget to hit subscribe and join us.